is yet to go Australia-wide. Today, through Environment Ministers, we'll meet to discuss expanding the 10-cent cash for containers program that's been so successful in the Northern Territory and South Australia.
So as it stands, 84% of Australians actually support the scheme. Environmentalists demand government action, but it seems the biggest hurdle is the beverage industry themselves. We're joined now by Reese Turner, who's a senior campaigner for Greenpeace, as well as Latifah Jackson-Vaughan, who's a young environmentalist. Guys, thanks for joining us. Now, Reese, Australians support this. We know it works in one state and one territory. Why is this not enacted Australia-wide?
That's a really good question. We've been wanting to see the scheme up for decades now, ever since South Australia brought it in over 30 years ago, and it's seen to be working there. In fact, it works in over 40 jurisdictions around the world, not just in Australia.
For people who live outside of NT South Australia, basically you pay 10%, 10 cents on every container, and then when you return it, you get that 10 cents back.
That's right. It's a refund, so 10 cents extra when you buy a bottle or can, and then you get it back when you take it back and redeem that 10 cents. It's pretty simple.
So is the beverage industry the problem, and why are they holding back on this?
Well, parts of the beverage industry are. So Coca-Cola and a few other companies took the Northern Territory government to court last year and actually won, so that threw the scheme into chaos for a while until they could get around that. And we're really disappointed, particularly in Coca-Cola, who've been lobbying so fiercely. One member of the New South Wales government here said that's the only reason that stopped this scheme going all through Australia, and particularly in New South Wales.
Latifah, tell us about your involvement with this campaign.
Well, I'm a part of a Green Deer, which is an environmental group at my school, and we've been quite adamant in our sort of support for the scheme. We've tried to get rid of all plastic water bottles in our school, and recently we banned Coke in our school because of them not complying with the scheme and saying it was not a good thing to do.
Do you feel like your generation, a younger generation, is more aware of environmental concerns and is more motivated to do something about it than maybe previous generations?
I hope so, but I think they should be, because it's going to affect us. It's not really going to affect people who are, say, maybe above 50, I guess, because it's sort of just coming into effect now, the amount of pollution that's actually in our ecosystem.
Reese, have we seen an increase in pollution, especially because we've been quite obsessed with drinking a lot of water out of, the packaging that ends up in our oceans and our environment? Has the problem increased over recent years then?
I think you're right, Tash. I think what we've seen in recent years is the proliferation of, really convenient plastic bottles, especially water, that we didn't have 10 years ago. I remember when it was first brought in, I thought, that's a pretty mad idea, but people do it now and it is convenient. The ideas that other people are having, like the Canberra Girls School, of bringing in water fountains, bringing them back, bringing in just an aluminium bottle that you can fill up anywhere is the way to go. But by introducing this container deposit legislation, we could double recycling rates pretty much overnight. That's what South Australia have. They have more than double the rate of recycling.
How many containers are we talking yearly around the country?
It's huge. It's 15 billion bottles and cans is what Australians consume every year, and more than half of that ends up either in landfill or our environment. And scientists now estimate that about a third of all the plastic debris in our oceans is from the beverage industry. Shelley Beach, just behind us, was just named as Australia's most polluted beach Australia-wide because of that plastic pollution. And we see less and less of this plastic in South Australia's beaches. And that's where we've seen the scheme run successfully for 30 years.
I don't understand why Coca-Cola would be opposed to this. Surely we're entering an era where social environmental responsibility is a big seller for the consumer.
Coca-Cola could earn so many brand points by getting on here. They're not the only beverage company who are opposed, but there are other beverage companies like Foster's, like VB and Carlton United Brewery, who have gotten on with the job and being more proactive in ensuring the scheme works well in the Northern Territory. So Coca-Cola, to you guys, you could do a lot better and earn some brownie points with the community by backing this scheme.
So Reese, where to from here? Because they're meeting today, as we mentioned in the introduction. What happens from here?
Well, there's a big meeting today of Environment Ministers where a final kind of cost-benefit analysis will be looked at. And then at the end of this week, the Premiers are meeting, and Dennis Nepthone, Victoria, the Premier down there, he's championing the scheme. We'd really like Mike Baird here in New South Wales to get on board. One of his own members of Parliament said the only reason we don't have this scheme in New South Wales is because of Coca-Cola and the other big companies lobbying. So we want the Premier to stand up, show that he's not, part of not going to give into this lobbying and stand up for a great community environmental outcome.
And Latifah, you've got your school involved. Are you getting other schools around you involved? Do you feel like there's a bit of a groundswell?
I think there is. We have Canterbury Boys near us and Canterbury Public right next door to us, and they've been extremely supportive, and they're doing a lot as well. I think they got a grant from the Sea Life Conservation Fund as well for a drinking fountain, which we got. And so it's really nice to see the whole community coming together to sort of battle against it.
Yeah, make a difference.
Nice. Yeah.
Latifah, thank you so much. Reese, thank you.
Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, still to come on this morning's show.